Hey guys, it's No Compo from the LLJ community. I thought I'd make a 4-month update video to talk a bit about the progress I've been making and the techniques I've been using that seem to have been working. If you're watching this video, chances are you already know what LLJ with Nuke Marine is. If not, please take a look at his Patreon, patreon.com, Let's Learn Japanese. It's got all the details of how to, how to get started and become a Patreon supporter and get access to the materials. It's a really great resource whether you're starting Japanese from zero, or as in my case, I had studied Japanese in the past and was just getting back into it. Let me also give a quick shout out to Otaku's YouTube channel. Otaku, also known as Navy Dave, is a member of the Discord and fellow learner who's put together several videos on his own progress with the technique, as well as detailed reviews of the materials and how to go about studying with them. Okay, so let me dive into some of the things I wanted to talk about. So when I joined LLJ, as I mentioned, I had already studied Japanese before. About 10 years ago, I studied pretty intensively. I took the JLPT2 test 10 years ago and passed it by exactly 1 point. So it wasn't very good, but at least that gives you an idea of where I was at 10 years ago. Sadly, soon after that, I stopped studying. I still immersed very little, occasionally watched Japanese shows, but pretty much stopped and forgot a lot of what I had learned. So when I got started, previously I had studied the full Remembering the Kanji book 10 years ago. I felt like I still had kind of some familiarity with kanji, like I could maybe read them or read a good number of them, but I'd forgotten how to write them for sure. But anyway, so I didn't start with kanji. I just went straight on to reviewing vocab. So I started out with the Tango books, and I went through the N5, N4, and N3 books. And since I learned them before, it only took me 30 days to go through all 3 books. Now, partly the reason for that is the N5 book. Since it's the most common, most basic words, I still kind of remembered almost all of them. With N4, I think I remembered maybe about half of them, and with N3 maybe I still remembered about a third of them pretty well. And the rest, which I didn't remember, I probably did know them in the past, and so even though I had forgotten them, they were kind of quicker to learn a second time. So having finished the Tango books, it was kind of time to decide what to do next. Right around that time was also a time when Navy Dave made a video about how to make frequency lists, and he had made a really good frequency list based on all the subtitles on Netflix, on Netflix Japan. And so using that resource, when we were looking at it, it seemed really great. It gives you, the frequency list of every word that appears on all of Netflix, and so if you knew that, you'd be able to understand anything you watch, right? So it seemed like a great idea. Hey, why not? Now that we finished Tango, which is based on the JLPT word set, wouldn't it be better to learn the word set that's actually used in Japanese shows? Now, having said that, what I initially did was I tried to analyze, I personally like statistics, and so I looked at, I started making spreadsheets and so on to see kind of how many morphemes did I already know on Netflix and how many more would I need to learn, etc. But as I was looking at it, I kind of quickly figured out that, hey, well, I also analyzed some shows. So, for example, I analyzed Death Note and Hunter x Hunter and some other shows, and I realized, hey, if I learn, take a look at this. If I learned 500 words from Death Note, I could get a more than 12% jump in readability on that show. Whereas if I learned 500 from the Netflix list, the percentage-wise, it seems much smaller. The other thing I considered was, every one of these, if I watch Death Note and I learn these Death Note words, every single word I learn is going to come up in immersion right away. Whereas with this, it's going to be kind of random, right? So I might learn 500 words, and then when I watch this, maybe only about 100 of them are actually going to come up in my immersion. And it might take a really long time. Like I might have to watch a lot of Death Note episodes before I heard, even a fraction of those 500 words. And so I started thinking more, hey, rather than keeping on with doing fixed word lists, instead I'm just going to focus, and so I started focusing on shows, and so we started calling them deep dives. So let me talk a bit about why do deep dives instead of doing something else. What's better about doing a deep dive compared to, say, doing more Tango books or going through the Netflix frequency list? So I kind of came to the conclusion that the bigger the list, the bigger the corpus that a list is made from, the less useful it is to study from. Now, there are some there are some other opinions that you can find online. For example, if you watched some of the Cure Dolly material, they also talk about how there isn't really one word list. It's really many different specialized word lists. For example, let's say you're interested in medicine. That's one word list. Let's say you're interested in crime and law. That's different words. What about army? That's going to be different things. Sports. That's going to be different words, etc., etc. There are probably tens, if not hundreds, of different topics that you could specialize in. So if you if you try to make a frequency list out of everything, I think it becomes too big, and you're not really making the fastest progress on any particular thing. I think you following a really big corpus list, you end up making very slow progress on a lot of different things rather than fast progress on a few things that you might particularly care about. Personally, I've taken focusing to as far as I could do it. So, I'll go over my results and then kind of show you how I've tried to focus and why I think that's been better. So, this image was essentially from about 3 months ago after finishing the Tango decks. So what I'd like to do is just show side by side with kind of where I am today. So you can get an idea of the progress. You can see, please take a look. I won't go through everything. You can see there's about 5% progress in the Netflix list, and I finished deep diving on Death Note. So now I have it over 98% overall. And I've also made really good progress on my next series, which is Full Metal Brotherhood. So that's currently, 95.9% overall. But what I've been doing is I've been learning one episode at a time, and I'm getting close to 20 episodes now, that where each of those 20 is going to be over 98% individually. But it comes to 95.9% overall from the total set of 64 episodes. Now, let me just also show other milestones that I've had. So at the 2-month milestone, I took the JCAT online test. So you can find that at jcat.org. Here's my scores. I won't go through them. Other than to mention the score of 243, according to the scale, it's approximately at a high level 2 level, JLPT level 2. So that was pretty nice. And then about a month and a half after I did this test, I retook the test. I didn't retake the JCAT. I bought this book, which you can take a look. This Nihongo no Ryoku Shiken, Besto Moshi. So it's the best mock test for the JLPT. It's a new book that came out in just published in March, and I think it's quite good. But there are a few options for taking mock tests, and so I simply took the mock test, and this was my score. So 50% is required to pass JLPT2. So the score was, clearly quite far enough to pass it. So how did I do it? Well, as I mentioned, I focused on deep dives, and I tried to focus. So let me just close this. So the way that I tried to focus was really focus on a show, but even more than that, I tried to focus and do one episode at a time. And so, for example, so for Death Note, I set a target of 98% for every episode, and simply did one episode at a time. So when I started, maybe there were about 100 or 120 new morphemes I had to learn per episode, but pretty soon, that number goes down as you've already learned a lot of the words that start repeating. And so eventually that number got down to 50, and then 25, and so on, and then basically 0. And I did the same thing with Full Metal Alchemist. Now, I would also suggest, one of the things Navy Dave did was he worked his way through the Kino no Tabi book. When I looked at it 3 months ago, to me it seemed like, wow, that's quite a great effort. I don't have the original analysis of the whole book, but the number of unique words in the whole book was pretty high, like over 1,000 words. And so I felt like having gone through the book and maybe looked up a lot of words in the Kindle dictionary, it must have taken a really long time. But anyway, so then I thought, well, what if I applied my own unique method of splitting things up? And so here's an example where if you split the book by chapter, the book has 5 chapters, I believe, and so the numbers get a lot more approachable looking. So for example, here, if I learn 200 words, then I'd be able to understand, in theory, the whole chapter. And 200 words for me is, it doesn't really take that long if I focus. So that's the idea that I have for focusing. So next, I guess I'll jump to show a bit of my Anki, to show kind of how I study. I'll show you how I do some reviews, and then after that, I think I'll actually take some time and show how I learn a whole episode's words. So you'll get to see everything I do, what kind of tools I use, and I think I'm planning to make some separate videos to show in more detail how to set up some of the tools if you want to try the same. Okay, so let's take a look at Anki. I'll minimize this for now. I guess let me start by showing you some statistics in case you're interested. So this reflects my whole study period, 118 days since I really started. It really marks when I started doing Tango. Here's the my K number overall right now, which is approaching 10,000. Now, actually, the way I usually count it is a bit lower than that. The reason is, I can show you, I have one deck which is my core vocab deck, where I have Morphman analyze both the vocab field and the vocab kana field, so the unkanjified field, and so I have Morphman parse and include both of those in my known words, at least when I'm using Morphman. But since that is useful because when you're doing deep dives, when you're looking at shows, sometimes you get different spellings of words. Sometimes the same word appears one time with kanji, one time without, and it's just it saves me some time to have both of them in my deck. But I don't really think of if I know the kanji version and the kana version as different words, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, even though this K number is close to 10,000, personally I take a more conservative count of 8,300 right now. I just removed this and recompute. Okay, so anyway, so here's my current stats. I haven't really reviewed anything today, but I will. All right, let me pick. So I organized things into one top deck, primarily so I can look at the stats overall easily. You can see I've got over 6,000 mature cards and about 500 that are newer that I've been learning. So my cards, they're all recognition cards. I don't do listening cards. I can talk a bit about why I think that might be the right way, or at least it is for me. I do immersion, so I get a lot of listening in my immersion, and I really want to spend as little time as possible in Anki, and so I really don't see that much reason to also do listening in Anki. I'm using Anki essentially to get words into my mind and to practice kanji readings, but then practicing listening more outside. There's still a bit of listening that I do in Anki, but I'll go on to how that is. What this means, though, is that essentially the number of cards that I have is not as large as if I had a listening card for every tango card. So this is how I've been doing. I've got a pretty high retention. Usually it's been averaging 95% pretty much the whole 4 months that I've been doing it. So okay, let's take a look a little bit at add-ons, which I think are useful. So I'll just quickly go through them just to mention which ones I think are important. So this one, which is this is supposed to be the Japanese support plugin. I'm assuming if you're studying Japanese, you definitely should have the Japanese support. And I recommend you get the latest version because the latest version has what's called the enhanced dictionary, which I added to it. Now, the way to check if you have that is to open the folder and go to the support subdirectory and check that you have this file, user_dic.dictionary. Make sure you have that. If you don't update, then you should update the add-on. Okay, so what are the other important things? Morphman is the most important plugin that you've got to have. And then no penalties in boosting, pass fail, reset easy. I'll go through these in more detail. But really, I copied these from Math versus Japan. So take a look at the MIA approach. So pass fail changes Anki so that it only shows you 2 buttons, pass and fail. So you don't have to think about whether something was hard or easy. Actually, it makes it quicker and easier to be honest with yourself, I find. The other thing is, so these 2 plugins, no penalties or boosting and reset easy, they go together. Again, you'll find kind of what those are for on Matt's blog. The other plugins are mostly visual things like showing statistics or showing this kind of heat map. The other interesting thing that I think it's worth doing to your Anki. So in my preferences, I set the learn ahead limit to 0. I recommend doing this. Of course, it's personal preference, but what this changes is, let's say you're close to the end of your reviews or end of your learning. There are no other cards to show except cards that should be shown later. Then Anki will show you them right now. So I think that the learn ahead limit is usually 10 minutes by default. So that means, well, if you have a card that's currently being learned in progress, and let's say it's scheduled 10 minutes in the future, Anki will show it to you right now. And that'll, I don't like that. You know, that'll just make the review easy, and it'll, you're very likely to forget the word or the card the next time. So in the long term, I think that kind of wastes time, so I turn that off. Most of the other settings that are useful are in the per deck settings. So I'll show you deck options, which I think are useful. So I use these particular steps. Now I could go in a lot more depth about why I do this, but essentially there's a technique called the Iverson method for learning vocab, which it's an old technique based on using pencil and paper, where it required that you write lists of words on paper and then review them. So you write groups of 5 or 6 words, and you kind of drill them. Anyway, you can search the Iverson method. What I did was, so I used to use the Iverson method. Now I use this. I find that it works in the same way, and it makes essentially it makes learning new vocab pretty painless. And I guess I'll show you how that works later. Reviews, I don't think I change anything here. Lapses, this is really important. Again, actually this is something taken from Matt, so please check his blog. But yeah, definitely set these settings. The default interval is 0, which means as soon as you make one mistake on a card, it goes back to 0. It goes back to being new. And even though a lot of the time you might make only a small mistake on a card, and it's not really worth resetting it all the way back to 0. And instead of doing that, what you want to do is set this higher, like 50 or 60%, and then set the leech threshold pretty low. Now, what that does is, if you're forgetting the same card again and again and again, the card is going to get marked as a leech. So at that point, you should kind of search for your leeches and then either delete them or reset them as new. So right, because you haven't learned them well. Okay, but anyway, doing this approach, I think it saves you a lot of reviews in the long run. Great. Okay, so I'll show you a bit about my cards and so on before I really jump and show you how to essentially deep dive an episode. Okay, so one thing, you'll see I've got a lot of cards. Lately, I don't have that many Tango cards come up for review, but I don't really like doing them. So I actually let them pile up to a few hundred and then do them on the weekend right now. So ignore those. but so the rest of the Jew cards are actually what I typically have right now, maybe about 100 and something subs to SRS cards, and not that many kanji, 5 to 10 kanji per day. Okay, so now what I've been doing, so I'm redoing remembering the kanji, and I'm doing full writing from the Japanese, starting from Japanese words. So I include Japanese word, mark the the kanji that I want to write. I still have the original keyword just in case, and then here are the cards. So I'm not using the LLJ template. I had this template since a long time, and I kind of like it. One of the things is you probably heard there's a kind of a principle for SRS, which is the minimal information principle, and that kind of says have as little as possible on your cards. Now, I do have quite a few things, but not as much as, so this deck originally had a lot more fields on it, so on the front and on the back, maybe it has a lot of readings and a lot of writings. Now, in practice, when reviewing the card, all I'm going to do is look at this Japanese keyword, write the kanji. I usually will just write it with my finger in the palm of my hand. I'll just do that, and I'll take a quick glance at this, and especially the number of strokes, and that's it. So you do the review, take a look. Kinsen, do I remember it? Okay. Yes, I remember it, I think. Check it. Yes, 13 strokes, perfect, done. Right. So, so all of that information, all of this extra keywords, all of this extra information here, I use that 0% of the time. Okay, so try to keep minimal information on your cards. All right. So I do something similar with, actually, let me show you my vocab cards first. So again, minimal information. What I've done is simply mark the keyword in the sentence, and as far as I want to review, I only want to review, sometimes I'll read the whole sentence, but to pass, all I want to do is review the keyword.
中間
家と駅の中間におしゃれなカフェがある。
Okay, so, all right, that's it. All right, so let me show you the subs to SRS card, same thing. So sometimes so I've highlighted the word, so using the minimal information principle, all I'm going to answer is that word. So I think it's honsho. Right. So if I want to practice speaking it or reading it, I will. Hisashiburi ni honsho misero yo, getemono no envy. Right. Right. So jo o ko umunda ima no kote ni wa oji 24人、王女14人がいて。
子を産むんだ。今の皇帝には王子24人、王女19人がいて。
Okay, so hopefully you saw that reading the whole thing took a lot longer. If I want to do it quickly, I'll just say ojo and move on. Okay, michibiki.
これも神の導きか。
誰一人。
無理だな。そいつらも石の材料に使われちまって、誰一人残っちゃいねえ。
All right, so also take a look at this. So when I'm looking at the back of the card, I'm listening to the sentence, right? So I'm getting listening. I'm all I'm reviewing is the keyword reading, but then I'm listening and trying to understand the whole sentence. 名誉、金も欲しい、女も欲しい、地位も名誉も、この世のすべてが欲しい。
金も欲しい、女も欲しい、地位も名誉も、この世のすべてが欲しい。
Right, oh, man, did I forget this one? Kitai kata ga tarin.
鍛え方が足りん。
Okay, I got it. Fujimi? Datte Fujimi nanja. Anyway, you get the idea. I think I'll stop there. There's maybe one more thing to just mention here.
そういえばお前たち、間もなく護衛対象から外されそうだぜ。
Alright, take a look at the back. There's no dictionary entry. I'm not using monolingual. You know, all I do, I try to keep it simple. Highlight the word that means, you know, as close as possible to the keyword. Sometimes I'll edit the subtitle. So sometimes I'll check the dictionary and I'll think, oh, the subtitle doesn't mean, you know, exactly or closely what the Japanese word means. So I'll just change the subtitle to be closer in meaning. And my theory is, you know, why do I want dictionary entry? I mean, you know, you don't learn a language by reading the dictionary, right? A dictionary, you know, maybe it describes something, but you can't learn, like, the only way you're really going to learn a meaning of a word is from context. So as far as I'm concerned, I think right now I still think monolingual is maybe overrated. Again, you don't acquire language from a dictionary. So I just finished reviewing. I didn't check how long it took, maybe 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. Okay, so now I'm in a good place to show you a bit more about how I go about learning episodes. So first thing I'll show you, there's a script that I wrote. You know, it's got a funny name, Natto Readability. It's called Natto because it uses a Python library called NattoPy. So it's not very imaginative. Anyway, this script, what it provides is if you have the subtitles for a show or a number of shows, it'll generate the frequency list that you should study in automatically, and so you can essentially just run one command and update your frequency. That's why it's useful. And on top of that, it can give you some information as well. So I'll describe more of that. So some of the things you can do is, so there are a lot of default settings here. There's a default setting of what percentage of morphemes should be readable. What's your target per show? So I have that set to 98%, but you can change it as you like. You know, then we point to the subtitles show directory, and this is the path that I want the frequency list to be saved to. So I have it saved directly to my Anki database frequency.txt, and so once I run this, all I have to do is go back to Anki, recompute my morphemes, and they're there. And then I also have the tool point to two documents. One is this knownwords.txt file, and this is a file where I save the current morphemes that I know from Anki to, and I have another one which is the Netflix frequency list. So this is the same file that you could get from, you know, that Navy Dave originally produced. And that's about it. And you have to have the Japanese support plugin installed and as I mentioned earlier, it has to be the latest version, but this will, essentially pull the MECAP tool straight out of that folder. And that's it. Okay, so let me just run it to show you what it looks like. So right now, I have it set to point to subtitles for Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And first thing it'll do is, let me make this bigger. It shows my current readability on the shows. And so I can take out a glance, my goal is 98%. All of these episodes above here have 98% or more. And that's what's left on the other ones. Below this, so given that I said my target is 98%, here it prints how many words I have to learn per show, per episode, to reach that target. And that is, if I studied them in the most optimal way from the frequency list, that's how many words I should study to get to 98%. So you can see I'm actually up to episode 19, and there's 25 words to study. And at the bottom here, it also prints, it'll print what your current Netflix percentage is and what your percentage will be at after you finish all of the episodes. So if you finish this plan, that's where you'll be. And as I mentioned, so it saves the frequency list directly to my Anki folder. All right. So with having done that, so the nice thing is I can just run the script. I don't have to, use too many spreadsheets and copy between too many things. And right, all I need to do is run that one tool. Something that I do is I keep I usually run the tool and I copy my progress into a spreadsheet like this, so I can track over time by episode. I get satisfaction from seeing this kind of progress. So here you can see I went one episode at a time, from wherever it was to 98 and so on and so on. I have maybe one episode that's over 99% as well. And you can also see the black dashed line. That's essentially the average of all shows. And so you can see the progress I've been making by focusing on one episode at a time. I get each one to a high level of readability and understanding, and I just feel awesome. I don't really care about all the other things I don't know yet. I'll get to those after. All right. So after I've imported my list and I'll recompute my morphemes, what I would usually do, let me make this bigger. So I'm on, so I said my next episode is 19. So I'll search, search this anime, search this deck for tag frequency. Those are words that are in my frequency text file. And right, so I could search all of those. See, there's 3,000 something. And then I filter to just the episode I want to study and sort by the due number. So the due number is going to be computed based on the frequency list that I generated. And so all you have to do is, essentially study from top to bottom, and add 25 words. So I'll just show you my process so you can reproduce it. Open the preview window and take a look. You can press the R key to play. So again, all I do is mark the keyword copy the focus vocab into here, mark the keyword on the backside, and oh, looks like I forgot something. So what's the closest meaning? Tairyo. I kind of know the word, I don't know why.
大量の水があるならば
You know, it's missing from my morphemes, but anyway, so it means a large amount of something. Okay, so that's it. Card is finished. Okay,
だ
so
として
I
まともな実験ではなさそうだな侵入者は凶悪殺人犯だ
okay. Now here's an example where there were two cards. So Shinyusha showed up twice. So I listened to both.
凶悪殺人犯だ
This one seems more interesting, right? It's got a full sentence. I'm gonna listen to more, so that's why I picked that one. Right, so I simply go through the list
私をひざまずかせることはでき
and pick the best example.
ようやくひざまずいたな
Again, this one's too short. And sometimes the word, you know, sometimes I'll skip it because the sentence is cut off, or maybe I just don't understand.
少年は決意という名で隠していたものを暴く
Yeah, so that one, I simply didn't use it because the sentence is cut off. That's it. All right, so that's it. So I would go through, and in this case, I've gone through 25 words, and now they're ready to learn. They're set up. All right, guys, so now that I'm set up, I'm gonna just go ahead and learn these words right before your eyes. You know, these aren't words that I've practiced before, so this is how I would learn naturally. You know, I've seen the words in the browser as I was looking at them. I might have looked at them once. You know, I listened to the sentences. Some of the words I looked up in the dictionary, right? But yeah, essentially, I've only been through them once. I haven't learned them. So you can see my learning process. So as I mentioned, you know, I have these steps set up. So these correspond, I think, to about 5 seconds, 10, 20, 40, and 5 minutes, right? So those are the steps. And those are intended to make it really easy for a word to first, you know, kind of get in your memory initially. And the last step, which is 5 minutes, is to just check, like, did you really memorize, you know, did I really memorize the word? Okay, so here I go. Hopefully you can see, you know, check how long it takes me to learn 25 words. 大量の水があるならば
大量の水があるならば
まとも、だとしてまともな実験ではなさそう
だとしてまともな実験ではなさそうだな
Doesn't seem normal. まとも normal. Okay, so I'll fail that. Okay, 大量 again.
大量の水がある
Okay, 侵入者 I kind of remember.
侵入者は凶悪殺人犯だ
Okay, まとも that was normal type of experiment.
だとしてまともな実験ではなさ
ひざまずく What's this?
あなたたちじゃ私をひざまずかせることはでき
Kneel. You can't make me kneel. 私をひざまずかせることはできない。Okay, I'll fail that. 侵入者。
侵入者は凶悪殺人犯だ
So, okay.
大量の水がある
まと
だと
も
して
ひざまずく。kneel.
あなたたちじゃ私をひざ
まくる。
俺はまだ殺しまくってたな
俺はまだ殺して殺しまくってだな。This is an interesting expression. Okay, まくる This maybe means again and again, repeatedly. Fail that. ひざまずく kneel.
あなたたちじゃ
侵入者
侵入者は凶悪
まともな事件
だとして
まくる
俺はまだ殺しまくってたな
again and again. コック 石が国だと
言ったはずよ。賢者の石が核だと。
言ったはずよ。賢者の石が核だと。The philosopher's stone is my core. 大量の水。
大量の水がある。
まっくる。殺しまくる。
俺はまだ殺して殺し
ひざまずく。kneel to kneel. You can't make me kneel.
あなたたちじゃ。
国。石が国だ。
言ったはずよ。賢者の石が核だ。
Ah, wait, I got it wrong, right? It's, let me go back. Kaku, not koku.
言ったはずよ。賢者の石
Okay, let me fill that. 侵入者、
侵入者は凶悪
まともな事件、
だとして
まっくる、まくってだ。
俺はまだ殺して殺し
核。賢者の石が核だ。
言ったはずよ。
Okay.
見失うなよ。
逃がさねえよ。
見失う。So it's see and lose. Don't lose. 見失うな。Okay. ひざまずく。
あなたたちじゃ私をひざまずかせることはでき。
核。
言ったはずよ。
見失うなよ。見失うなよ。
見失うなよ。
逃がさねえよ。
二三度気絶しかけたらな。
2、3度気絶しかけた。I think this should be like 2、3, like with a space in between. 2 or 3 times, meaning a few times. 2、3度気絶しかけたがな。Fainted a few times.
二三度気絶しかけたらな。
まくる。そう、俺はまだ殺して殺して殺しまくってだな。
俺はまだ殺して殺して殺しまくってたな。
This one's a bit, it's a bit hard to understand. I think the character is confused. 見失う。
見失うなよ。
核。
言ったはずよ。
気絶。
二三度気絶しかけたらな。
I don't know.
容赦ないわね。
容赦ない。容赦ない。Like you don't get mercy. It means mercy. Okay. 同行します。自分たちも同行します。
自分たちも同行します。
見失う。
見失うなよ。
what was it? 容赦。
容赦ないわね。
容赦。Okay, failed that. 2、3度気絶。
二三度気絶しかけた。
気絶しかけた。同行します。will accompany you.
自分たちも同行します。
容赦。
容赦ないわね。
核。
言ったはずよ。
警察。警備兵。
逮捕は我々に任せろ。警備兵は出入り口を封鎖。
Okay, so here's one where I just know the parts. I know KB and which is a guard, and Hei is a soldier. So this is like a soldier guard. KB Hei. 容赦ないはね。容赦 was mercy. So you don't show mercy, right? 容赦ないはね。
容赦ないわね。
同行。
自分たちも同行します。
Okay, how are we doing? So, alright, there's 14 left, so we've been through 11. Oh, we've started 11 already. 見失う。
見失うなよ。
気絶。
二三度気絶し。
警備兵。
逮捕は我々に任せろ。警備兵は出入り口を封鎖。
I don't know
悔
this.
しいけどあなたみたいな男にやられるのも悪くない。
悔しいけど、あなたみたいな男に殺されるのも悪くない。It's regrettable, but I don't mind. It's not bad to be killed by someone like you. Okay, I'll fail that. 悔しい。容赦ないわね。
容赦ないわね。
警備兵。
逮捕は我々に任せろ。警備兵は出入り口を。
同行。
自分たちも同行します。
what was it? 悔しい。悔しいけど。
悔しいけどあなたみたいな男に
What's this?
他人の肉体と魂の相入れないなら
Aida and I, it's kind of intertwined mix. So here's a case where the original translation was mixed, and I thought intertwined might be a better meaning, but I'm not sure. So Aida and I. Aireru means, let's say it's intertwined mix. Aida and I. Fail that. Kuyashi.
悔しいけどあなたみたいな男にやられる
Okay. Yosha. Yosha nai wa ne.
容赦ないわね
Aireru.
他人の肉体と魂の相入れないなら
Keibi
逮捕は我々に任せろ。
Ara. It's like my. Oh my.
お得意の本にも出せないわね
お得意なものも出せないわね。相入れない。相入れない。
他人の肉体と魂の相入れないなら
相入れない。悔しいけど。
悔しいけ
まともな事件。Like there's some weird experiments going on. Like not proper
だ
experiments.
としてまともな実験ではなさそうだ。
あら。Oh my. 大量。
大量の水があるならば
Okay, so you can see, so the first words I learned, they're about to graduate to 1 day. Right, if I get it. So it's been 5 minutes since I last reviewed it. If I fail, it'll go back to beginning. If I pass, 1 day. Graduate. I still remember it. So this really works. You know, most of the time I can get through the words. All right. 相入れない。
他人の肉体と
ひざまずく。
どあなたたちじゃ私
あら。悔しい。
悔しいけ
侵入者。
侵入者は凶悪
返す。
重大な秘密を話したということは生かして返す気がないということか。
It's just Furikana's wrong. Let's see. Let's change this.
重大な秘密を話したということは
So I got it
生かして
right.
返す
Okay. 確定なのに。
残念だわ人柱確定なのに
That's too bad, even though you're confirmed as a sacrifice. 人柱確定なのに。あら。相入れる。
他人の肉体と
返す。
重大な秘密を
たぶり殺し。
このままじゃなぶり殺しですよむしろ好都
sorry.
合だ
なぶりのたぶり。このままじゃなぶり殺しですよ。むしろ好都合だ。We'll be tortured to death like this. No, it's actually convenient. 好都合。Alright. なぶり殺し must be tortured to death. Okay, I don't know that. 確定。
残念だわ
返す。
重大な秘密を総長撤収だ
撤収。早朝撤収だ。evacuate。なぶり殺し。tortured to death。
このままじゃなぶり殺し
まくってたな。
俺はまだ殺してこれ
What was this one again? 撤収。
総長撤収だ
撤収。got it. 確定。
残念だわ
なぶり殺し。
このままじゃなぶり殺し
別々。
そもそも別々の肉体と魂
逃げ込む。逃げ込んだぜ。
俺の体はここに逃げ込んだぜ
took refuge. 俺の体、my body はここに逃げ込んだぜ。took refuge in here. Okay. I got it. 撤収。withdraw.
総長撤収だ
撤収。返す。
重大な秘密を
別々。
そもそも別
なぶり殺し。tortured to death.
このままじゃなぶり殺しですよ
投げ込む。like to take refuge somewhere.
俺の体はここに逃げ込んだぜ
逃げの投げ。逃げ。fail that. 気絶。2、3度気絶しかけた。
23度気絶しかけたらな
言ったはずよ
確定。
残念だわ
撤収。
総長撤収だ
逃げ 逃げ込む。
俺の体はここに逃げ込んだぜ。
別
そもそも別
々。同行。
自分たちも同行しろ。
I don't know this.
ご褒美に見せてあげる。
That's a new kanji. Gohobi. Gohobi. Gohobi ni misete ageru. Okay. Failed that. Gohobi. 見失う。
見失うなよ。
なぶり殺し。
このままじゃなぶり殺し。
逃げ込む。
俺の体はこ
I forgot it. Go something me. Go
ご褒美に見せてあげる。
Gohobi. See, so it's gonna show me it again and again until it sticks. Gohobi. Teshu.
どうしよう。撤収だ。廃棄されてからかなり時間が経つようだな。
廃棄されてからかなり時間が経つようだな。Abandon 廃棄されたから。Okay. 別々。
そもそも別々。
逃げ込んだ。
俺の体はこ
ご褒美。I think I
ご
got it.
褒美に見せてあげる。
Now it's stuck. ご褒美。This one. Something き。
廃棄されてからかなり時間が経つようだな。
廃棄。廃棄。廃棄。Alright, fail that. 警備兵。
逮捕は我々に任せろ。
ご褒美。
ご褒美に見せてあげる。
As a reward. ご褒美に。廃棄。廃棄されてから。
廃棄されてからかなり時間が経つよ。
容赦。Did I forget this? 容赦ないわね。
容赦ないわね。
I remembered it. 逃げ込んだ。
俺の体はこ
廃棄された。
廃棄されてから
ご褒美。
ご褒美に見せて。
実験室。
実験室。
水素。
分解して水素と酸素を発。
焼け。something。
まさか焼け焦げて塔の上から落ちても死なない。
焼け焦げる。焼け焦げて塔の上から。You got burned and fell from a tower and you still didn't die. 焼け焦げて。実験室。
実験室。
水素。
分解して水素と酸。
hydrogen. what was it? 悔しい。
悔しいけど。
廃棄。
廃棄されてから
焼け。What was it again? 焦げる。焼け焦げる。
まさか
ご褒美。
ご褒美に見せて。
実験室。
実験室。
水素。
分解して水素と酸。
Okay, I'm done. Sort of done. All the new cards are done, but there are still some that are in learning progress. But so at this point I would recompute Morphman. That didn't take too long, did it? Alright, morphines went up. I would load my known morphs. Copy them into the known words text file. That's it. And then I would rerun the script. And we're done. We're done with episode 19. Finished. Episode 20 is only 6 words. It's going to be really quick. Okay. Thanks if you watched this far. Hopefully it was helpful. I think, I tried to show how I've been studying for the past 3 months or so. I'm going to probably make another video to show mainly how to install everything you need to run this script. And yeah, if you have any questions, ping me on the Discord channel. Okay. Later, guys. Bye.